Okay. I will call our meeting of the Broadband Task Force to order. It is 1:02 p.m. Moving through our agenda, I guess I could do attendance. It wasn't on the agenda, but Dan and Addison had let me know that they're unable to make it. So the rest of us are present. Public comments. We don't have any public comments and nobody from the public here. So approval of minutes. I did send the minutes out. I still wonder about the formality of this group, but minutes exist. So I guess we can I don't know if I need to even take a motion other than to just say, everybody okay with those?
Look good to me.
Yep, they look good.
Yeah, they look good.
Um,
So moved if you need it officially.
all right. All right. So moving on to discussion items, I will, I guess, start with the vision. We kind of talked through the vision last week, last week. Share my screen. So this is the vision that we kind of put together, the vision kind of call it statement that we put together last time. I'm gonna just give me a second here. I gotta go grab the mouse for the screen in here. So I don't know if I'd call it wordsmithing, but I did make just a kind of a couple little changes to what we had talked about last time. Is there any other items that people want included in this or just phrasing that you don't like? I'll tell you, I'm not a huge fan of the end of the second sentence where it says and society, but I couldn't think of something all encompassing other than that word. So as well as the last sentence, the last bit of the last sentence of a more fulfilling life, just trying to be kind of cover the everything else without saying everything else.
I don't have a problem with society or.
All right.
That will grow Dunn County economy. Do you need to say that? Broadband for all will grow Dunn and then educate students and lead to healthy and more fulfilling life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need grow the economy in there because I think there's gonna open up business opportunities and professional opportunities.
Yeah.
And then another suggestion I might make is after proof, take out the period in lowercase on the two so that it's all one sentence. Is reliable, fast, and future proof to support our seniors, businesses, and career professionals to participate in schoolwork, healthcare, entertainment, and society.
Gotta take a good breath before that sentence.
Right.
Otherwise, the second part wasn't a full sentence, so
Right.
gotta be grammatical.
Right. Yeah.
Or, if we want it in a shorter sentence, we can think of a way to do that too.
Oh, I think in general, any vision statement I've ever seen is the longest sentence that they teach you to not write in
Mhm.
elementary
Right. Right.
school. But how do you include all of those little bits into a sentence? Lots of commas. Okay. I guess with that, I think we can move on. We'll kind of use that as our vision, right? So that's what we're looking to provide, and everything that we do from this point forward is to kind of get to that space. All right, next item. I do want to, I guess, maybe go a little bit off of, maybe off, maybe not off, but, I shared with you a map. You had a chance to, pull that open of Dunn County. Ooh, if I can share this.
Yeah, it's pretty comprehensive.
So, yeah, so this map shows the zoom, let's see, well, we're zooming. So yeah, that it's using the PSC Public Service Commission's awarding or awardee and applicant data for Dunn County. So this is essentially showing where that public funding for broadband has been applied in Dunn County. And by the way, applied, I mean like actually put into place. So the green areas, and as I'm showing it right now, are applicants. So if we take that off, these have not been awarded necessarily. Those are my knowledge of those two grants right now, or those few grants right now, there was a second round of grants that PSC just had available. Would they have to have them in by May 1st? Is
Yeah.
that what it was?
Yeah, it was because we had a kind of a hurried meeting to get like our part, the county's part approved.
Yep. So that's what those particular grants are. So, you know, if those grants are approved, which the one that the county had backed is the grant for the town of Grant. So I wanted to say that, so I did. But there are a few other ones that are also being done in Dunn County there. So you can see if those are all approved, which is frankly unlikely. I know they received maybe a couple $100 million worth of grant applications for 14 million statewide. So we'll see what ends up happening. But if some of those get approved, those are areas in the county that will be covered that currently are not. So I wanted to share this, and what this doesn't show is where the telecom providers have provided data that was not funded by these grants. So you can see the town of Menominee proper, or the city of Menominee proper, shows no coverage, and that doesn't mean there is no coverage. It means that there wasn't grant money put towards that. And that could be true of other areas in the county, but that I wanted to put that out there as we talk about surveys to let you know that really what we're trying to do with some of the surveys is to identify those areas that essentially are not lit up by this map, and the areas that we know are covered, like the city of Menominee. So as you look at town of Sherman, right? So town of Sherman has had no grants. So how covered is that? What providers are out there covering that area, and where is it? That's really what we're kind of starting to dig into here with some of that survey. So any questions, comments, or otherwise about that?
So the where the overlay is with the fiber, it's pretty broad, whereas the applicants, it's kind of down almost to, I want to say granular, but it's pretty obvious where those lines are. What was the kind of the criteria? They kind of just mask everything with the red for the fiber, as far as like, is it because they don't have those specific areas lined up?
So some of them look like a little snake route or
Capillaries. Yes.
So I looked into a little bit of that. I specifically looked into the town of Otter Creek section 2 one, which is the lower portion of Otter Creek. So that grant application, so there's a way to actually get back to the specific grant application and read through what Mosaic in this particular instance applied for. And if you dig in there, they actually have the little capillary design out there that shows where they're going to run that fiber. It appears the PSC did not map that specific route, but rather covered that whole section of the township. Like I say, I grabbed that one section and I followed it all around and kind of lit up all the residents to see would that cover every residence in that area, and it seems that it would have. We talked a little bit last time about there's one thing to say that we're running the fiber down the road and another thing to say that we're running it down your driveway.
Right.
So there was one instance where there was like 2 residents down a half-mile driveway. It was not an official street by any means. So were those 2 residents covered? I don't know. They certainly would have had the opportunity, but it would have likely been a personal cost that they paid in order to get that. So, but they would also still going forward have the opportunity to pay that, I would assume.
I think that they try to. I know 24/7 is doing that. That's part of what my husband does, is identify those areas where it's grant, but maybe that residence wasn't particularly on that, to begin with, coming from the engineers, to get those added in. And I think Mosaic did the same thing, where if there were some gaps in there that weren't identified to begin with, since they were out in that direction, they went ahead and plowed there anyway.
Yep.
So,
and I assume most of these grants are applied for as a fiber to the curb would be the term that they talk about, and not necessarily fiber to the door. And that's kind of in that line. So, so I think there is some kind of question as you do that. And I think that's, as you talk about a plan and as we talk about as a county and as a municipal organization getting behind some of this funding, is that an important part? Is that an important aspect to the grant that we want them to include? To say, no, we want the fiber to every door. If they don't want to pay for it, then you need to do it, or is that to say, nope, the best we're going to do is to the curb, and then there's going to have to be some individual choice by people or a combination thereof. So I think that's something to think about as we put that plan together as to what is important. So that being said, I also looked at the grant that was provided that covers kind of that Downing Boyceville area, which was also included. It also included Glenwood City. That one didn't really have the little capillary design. It actually had like a whole bunch of like residents that were going to be covered, so you didn't really know where it was going to go. So can you say that the red blob that covers all of the town of Tainer is covering every resident? I don't know that you can say that, but I would feel pretty confident saying that there is a provider that they could pay some amount of money in order to get connected. So, but that's some of that also, once again, to kind of learn, right? And I think as we survey somebody in Tainer says, yeah, they came by, but it was going to cost me $2,000 to connect, right? That's some feedback that we can receive and kind of put into our thought process.
Dan, that example you just gave of you got 2 residents on a half-mile road,
Driveway.
or drive. What if they're seniors and they can't afford to do it on their own.
Right. No, and I think that's like I said, that's a piece of, as we look at that, is to say, all right, so as we look at a Dunn County plan, and if Dunn County is going to have some matching funds or is going to provide some way to make these, or to assist in getting these grants approved, is there some criteria that the county looks at to say, we will do that, but we need to look at long driveways, and we're going to have a plan in how to deal with these long driveways.
Especially, maybe you got a Korean War veteran living
Right.
down there, and I've been working on kind of the thing that if Dunn County doesn't have the resources, is there resources available to them as a veteran?
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, and like I say, those are all of those different aspects that we need to think about and include as part of that plan, or the goals and the vision around these things. And then it's, how do you do it? Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing, I don't know if we can include that. Mosaic didn't charge anything. 24/7 is charging $150 to come down your driveway. It doesn't matter if your driveway is 10 feet or if it's a half a mile.
Yep.
So if there's something we could include somehow, that there would be a fixed nominal cost of some kind, if they're gonna charge anything at all,
mhm.
to come down that driveway, so that, it makes it more accessible. And then if there's some other resources, then that people can access if they can't afford that.
Yep. No, yeah, like you say, that all to me makes great sense. And I think, because again, I will have a note to make sure that we'll bring that up as we start talking about, the how-to, the plan, those
If-
things that we keep.
If this map is something that's gonna grow too, it'd be nice to have another set of layers that shows the providers.
It would be.
Well, I'm saying it would be.
I might have spent about 2 hours of my morning trying to find one. So, I swear I found one at one point, but I can't re-find it. I don't know that that's something I don't know that it is official,
Yeah.
right, where those are.
Mhm.
But, go ahead, Terry.
In the bigger picture, all 72 counties are gonna, for this bead, are gonna come up with their own plan, right?
The plan,
That's what I'm hearing.
yeah, yes, kinda. You're coming up with the plan, and we're sharing that with the state for the state to include in their plan.
Exactly.
But I think as we look at the Dunn County plan, right? So part of this is we share that with the Public Service Commission.
Yeah.
So that they know where our issues are and whatnot. And that helps them kind of determine how they want to do that. But the other part is to help guide the county board and any other areas in, if we are asked for by a provider to provide matching funds or to provide a letter, what are those criteria that we're looking at, right? So similar to what Leanne brought up, is if we're going to be on board, then you need to have a set nominal fee for getting it down your driveway, or you need to provide it, or something like that, right? Those
Or
can
it could be
criteria.
something that the county perhaps with, if somebody doesn't have the funds and maybe we figure out a grant process for covering those costs.
Right.
Again, because it kind of fits into the vision then too.
Right. Yep. So,
When you get between Dunn County and Barron County, you're gonna run into this, because
Yep.
my hunch is the ISPs cross county lines.
they do. Yep.
So I don't know if that needs to be addressed. And Jim had a good idea to show their territory, but I got a hunch you aren't gonna get that for a while.
Right. We could, like I say, I thought I found something and I'm guessing it was just somebody kind of spitballing where those lines are, but you know, we can certainly cover it regionally, but those intersecting areas, I think, are some of the questions. So yeah, I will continue to look and see what I can find. If anybody finds something, we can do that. We can certainly get it included in the map. I'd say useful and valuable. And Katie, if you had a chance, I did, because we have school district boundaries. I did put the school district boundaries in there so you can kind of see what that looks like in whoa, zoomed. What that looks like as it relates to your school district. So. All right. So yeah, so if there's any other information, the data that you want to see in these maps, overlay of anything, let me know. It's something, if we as the county have it, we can get it added. I know the people that do it. So and though we're not really counting things against the grant right now, mapping is something that is covered by our great bead planning grant. So the work to do some of this stuff does not need to fall purely on the cost of the county taxpayer. So
I think adding the grant recipients or awardees, so instead of just saying that we're, or having another overlay that shows, instead of just fiber, shows, okay, this is a mosaic expansion or project, here's 24/7, because I'm sure that the one up here in the town of Tanner has probably some 24/7, and then into Otter Creek is probably some mosaic, and I be nice to see where that defining line is between the providers, at least that way.
yeah, and we can look, so this layer, it was taken from the Public Service Commission. So I shouldn't say taken, they provide it for free. But if you do click on them, it will tell you who that grant is and who it was awarded. But yeah, it's hard to find that line.
Yeah.
As I'm looking at it.
I think most of them try to go by township, because I know between Otter Creek and Tanner, you're on the north side of the road, that's Mosaic. You're on the south side, it's Tanner.
Okay.
And any overlap in there.
Right. But yeah, the grant in the town of Tanner, there's a difference between Mosaic and 24/7 there. It's a geography and railroads can cause that as well.
Mm-hmm.
There is a fiber ring around Tanner Lake by charter.
Right. And once again, so, you know, charter's not included in a lot of this because they didn't do a lot with grants through the Public Service Commission. So,
But as a point I made a long time ago, charter should be included in that Tanner Lake area.
right. And that's, you know, that's that question of who's where. Right.
Yeah.
And where is there actually coverage? Because yeah, I think, you know, charter's covering
Exactly.
a lot of these areas that in that particular map show as being uncovered, but well, I shouldn't say uncovered, but they are still covered. And the same is true with 24/7. Like, you know, I think as you look at it, like Downsville itself probably doesn't show as covered, and that's because 24/7 had that covered before all of these grants were available.
I'm not so sure 24/7 isn't going after the northwest corner of is it Dunn? No, it's town of Colfax, I think. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yeah.
I guess that's an ongoing thing.
Yep. So, all right, I was going to then move along surveys. Guy said last time that I would mock up some surveys, so I did that. So just to kind of look through and any feedback that you can think of as this comes in, if you try and put yourself in the boots of somebody filling out that survey, thinking about how someone would do this. This is a web version of the survey, so we had talked about like having a web version available for available at the libraries for people to fill out, or just ways for people to be able to fill that out in general. And so this is the web version of that. So first question, I went with the do you or can you have broadband at your residence? And just a yes, no, maybe. And with the maybe, I did provide a way for somebody to kind of explain themselves should they choose to. I know I guess in my time filling out a survey, there's sometimes where I just yes or no isn't really the right way or the right answer. So let me tell you why. It's close. So and that's where somebody could say I have broadband, but it sucks. Right. So
Yeah.
put in maybe there.
I would
You
put,
probably get more than you want to.
Yeah.
I think I'd add in parenthesis after broadband, high-speed internet, because some people may not even think broadband is internet, so.
Right. Yep. I actually removed broadband from other questions. So that specific phrase, because it does have a definition as we look at it.
Yeah.
Yes. So I will put high-speed internet there. All right. I feel like this could be a long list. This was my search to try and find all the providers. So I gave up and went with other. Well, other was always going to be there. So
CenturyLink is now Brightspeed.
Oh,
it's
really?
not Lumen anymore.
No.
I'll put all three of them in there then.
Yeah.
As that was something like I
You'll see
did.
them in some of the grant requests, Brightspeed.
Yeah. Yep. I will put that in there. Like I did with CenturyLink and Lumen, and well, even with Spectrum and Charter, I tried to put other names that people might
Yeah.
know them as,
Yeah.
so that they're not going into the other, and then we
Yeah.
have to kind of fix the data. West Wisconsin as well.
Yep. Somebody might remember CenturyLink as GTE, so.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
That's a long time ago.
That was a long time ago.
Did they have internet?
No. I think it changed names before they added DSL.
Yeah.
So.
No. So
Under the other designation there,
Yep.
is there the ability for people then to say what that is? Okay.
Yep.
Say what that is?
Yep.
Whether it might be satellite or who knows.
yeah, there was like a HughesNet, which is the big kind of satellite provider. Theoretically, somebody could have Starlink,
Mhm.
and things like that.
T-Mobile is another one, because that's what we actually have at the newspaper office here. Nextiva, it's called.
Yes. Yep. So, yep. So like I said, the list started to get long, and I wanted to make sure that we included the big names, and I don't want to leave out some of the fringes. But I also, yeah. So there's this happy medium of a long list versus putting them in there, but.
I mean, it's just a kind of, then if people fill that out, it'll give us an idea of what some of those others might be.
Exactly. Yep. So All right. So I will, these next two questions only show up if you answered yes or maybe to the first question. So I'm not asking people how fast their connection is or how affordable it is if they don't have one. Well,
Yeah.
or if they don't have access to one. So is your connection greater than 100 meg? And I know, Katie, you had talked about, just asking it related to streaming, can you stream? And in the other survey that I'll show you, I went that way. And this one I went, is it greater than 100 meg? And this was kind of that discussion, like you said, about the term broadband. And I wanted to do that. So I'm kind of putting this out because I provided a couple of different options, but I went, is your connection greater than 100 meg? And I gave a yes, no, and then I gave unsure, but it's fast enough, or unsure, but it's too slow. To just like, you don't have to go look up your bill to go find out if it's 100 meg, but I think some people might know.
You could add, even though it'll make it a little longer, you could just add more to that sentence. Is your connection greater than 100 megs? In other words, can you watch a movie on Netflix without it pausing or stopping or skipping?
Sure.
I mean, it would add more, but it would pretty much just, then you're kind of covering both things in that one question.
Yep.
I think that's fine having an extra line.
It is on this particular
Yes,
one.
yes.
So the other one's the postcard, and we have limited
Yes.
footprint. So does that seem to make sense what Jim suggested there?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. And then, all right, so do you consider the cost affordable? Struggled with the answers to this one. So I'd be curious if anybody answers yes. So, but I put it there. And so I put there is no. But I put in ultimately I am not connected because of the cost. And the next question is that the cost is too high, which would mean which is ultimately saying that it is not affordable, but it's a
But they're paying for it anyway. Yeah. Yeah.
So and so once again, as you put yourself into the mindset of somebody filling this out, does that make sense? Does that cover that? Is there something where somebody looks at that and say, why can't I just say no?
And would it make sense to have something to ask then how much they are paying? Because somebody can say, I'm not connected because of the cost. Well, if the cost for one person to connect is $100 and that's too much, and for the next person, $25 is too much.
The
So
last governor's task force on broadband, they spent a huge amount of discussion on depending on the user's financial situation. No matter where you are, if you're living on a fixed income, or if you're a younger family or whatever, they talked extensively about this, and I don't know. I don't think they ever came to a conclusion. But if you had a chance to watch that last task force meeting, there was a lot of questions.
There might not be an answer.
It'd be good to have these questions, but then add, like Leanne said, another thing, how much do you pay per month for your internet connection? Because then it would be interesting just to see if they say, no, I don't have it because of the cost, yet for them, the cost is only $30 a month. That
Yeah.
says something about, kind of just where their economic status is, and that $30 a month, I'd be dancing in the streets if my connection was that low. And I pay what I have to pay because I need to have it. So I think what like Leanne said, I think it'd be good to add one more line just saying, how much do you pay? Because it'd be great to see that what if someone says, the cost is too high. Well, if they're paying like 99 a month or something, well, maybe then you can understand it. But if they're saying that they don't have it because of the cost, but the cost is only $35 a month, then it's like, okay, well, there's someone that we need to target with some other sort of thing to help them make it affordable.
Right. So, and part of that then is the market cost versus just the demographics of the individuals. There's a difference there. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking it as another question.
Yeah, it almost have to be.
Should I ask the other question in all three cases or only for the second two answers?
I think you ask it in all three.
Okay.
Because if someone says, is the cost affordable? Yes. And they're spending $125 a month, then they're going, boy, you've got a good income.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Well, another one is, if you bring fiber to the door, you can't do much better than that. But if you're a user and maybe all you do is online banking or telehealth or something like that, you have the ability to go almost unlimited, but yet you don't even need that.
Right.
So everybody uses that internet in different ways. So
Yeah.
in other words, you have the ability to get a lot of bandwidth, but you don't need it and don't use that. So how do you adjust that? I like the idea of the streaming, but if you're older people, I got a hunch you may not stream, but there's more things like probably email or the ability to see your family and that kind of stuff over the internet.
Yep.
So you're bringing them a fiber connection, but you may not need 100 megabits.
You're advocating for a variable rate, right? So
Well,
based
that's
on,
between ISP and the customer.
right. But only if the infrastructure exists in order to provide the high end.
Exactly.
All right. And then, so then, yeah, the last question is, to map, to put a pin on where you live. So you come in here and I click the button and that's where we are.
can it
Yeah,
start
great.
like zoomed in on Dunn County?
So as soon as so if you saw that, as soon as I click that button, it will, I've already hit it, but it will ask you, is it okay to access your location?
Okay.
Right? The browser will, and then it zoomed in. So it actually put me in, that's the government center on the map there. So it brought us right to where we are.
Okay.
Who knows how accurate that's going to be for others because of how it
True.
does that, but
Yeah.
but it is using your browser's location, or you can search and scroll.
Would we want to add a question in there about what do you or what would you use high-speed internet for? Just to get that an idea.
Yeah, that might actually play into what Terry was just talking about, that, for some people, emailing and staying in touch with relatives, it may not require a broadband, and that's going to influence some of their questions and their responses to stuff too.
Are you thinking a So I'm
Kind of
gonna,
a text.
yeah, I was gonna
Okay.
ask two questions.
Okay.
So I guess part of it is a statement. And that is so in my opinion, what is most important in this aspect is where like I say, filling in the gaps of that map that we showed before, right? I
Mhm.
really want to know whether you have or don't have internet in where you are.
Yeah.
The rest of this information is certainly valuable information, but I don't want to make the survey so long that we lose that first bit of information.
Yeah.
So
I think I agree. I think less is going to be more. Just a question about the map and translating that then to maybe like a paper version of the survey. Would you just request that they write in their address on a paper one? Or how are you thinking of marking that?
yeah, so I'll show you the paper one in a second, but
Sure.
we would the idea is we're gonna send out an envelope with a prepaid postcard in it. And that prepaid postcard is going to have the return address that will tell us the address that essentially it was sent to.
Excellent. Thanks.
So that's how we would tie it back. And I did put a question in there to say if you're answering for a location other than where it was received.
Good. I
So
was just thinking that.
there is a way for
Mhm.
people to enter a different address there. So anyway, so I made my statement about the thing being too long. My next thought is so I can then put a question on the end that says, are you willing to answer more questions? And then we can add a few more. So that does give somebody an out.
Yeah. I think that's a way to do it.
Yeah,
So
Yep. if 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 a location or a residence or whatever, is there a place to say I would start my own business if I had, in other words, there's some people out there that may want to start their own home business, but they don't have the internet to work for them. Is that covered under a different area?
I think that fits into the question that Leanne brought up of how are you going to use it?
Oh, okay, then.
What would you use it for? How are you going to use it?
And we could
Well,
put some, either have that as a text fill in or a couple of multiple questions like expanding of my business, staying in touch with relatives and friends, telehealth could be a couple of those, and then a box where they could other.
So I just did the multi-line text for that question, but yeah, I think there's some value in giving people a list because then they don't have to think.
Yes.
But it might be a combination of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of surveys at the end they have, is there something that you would like to comment that hasn't been covered by the survey sort of thing?
Yep. Yeah. I usually provide feedback that your survey sucks in that.
Yeah. Well, whatever.
Yeah. Is there anything else you would like us to know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cause yeah, I think that's,
How do you like my survey?
yeah.
No.
Like me as a person.
Well, and that's, and like I said before, it's the making sure if you gave me a yes and a no, but neither of them are the right answer,
Mhm.
then that's where I kind of come to the end and be like, on question number 2. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, just down the street from me, there's a construction outfit. Whether they needed broadband, I suspect he has broadband at his home, but there might be businesses, like I say, that are in the mix or currently that broadband would really enhance their operation, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and and as you bring up new builds, I think that is another piece as it relates to projects that ISPs put out there to make sure that they will, support new houses. Obviously, if somebody builds a new house, they're probably going to have to pay for that connectivity from the curb, but making sure that they have it built into their plans that things could grow.
Well, I know in my area, Bloomer Broadband, they build this future stuff right into their network.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
Well, yes, the hard part's digging up the ground. It's not
Yeah.
that hard to run a fiber through a plastic pipe.
they got their own little, from the fiber to the home, they got their own little equipment all made just for that.
Yep. All right. So that is anything else? I know I don't have all of the stuff in this new survey the updated survey that we talked about. I'll follow up with that after the meeting. The best part of recording these things is I don't have to take notes. So put those in there. Any other questions that anybody wants?
Well, like you said, if you put 100% of what you'd like to know, nobody's going to fill them out.
Yeah, they'll see that big long list and they'll go, oh, this is too long.
Yep.
Survey fatigue.
Yep. Yeah, they say we just kind of want to get their answers. And once again, this is the online version of the form. So we're asking somebody who theoretically doesn't have internet to fill this thing out. So this is that person from the library or wherever it might be that is.
Or they're doing it at work or at school.
Yep.
Where they have access and
Right.
don't have it at home.
And we talked a little bit about even just having a meeting where we invite people to come, where we can just set up a computer and we can have them fill out this survey. So we have them a little bit more engaged where they may be willing to answer those 5-6 questions. And we may even be able to provide some assistance in filling it out. So
to Addison's point, with the QR codes, I think a lot of people who don't have access at home maybe still have mobile access.
yes. And
Yeah.
frankly, as I wrote the questions, and I probably should have brought that up, is I wanted to make sure people didn't confuse those two,
Sure.
right? Like if you have access to the internet? Yeah, I have my phone. That's not what I'm talking about. But if they do answer yes, hopefully we can still kind of get that out.
Do you think the libraries in Dunn County could really help us? Because a lot of the libraries, the reason they get people in there is they don't have adequate internet at home.
Yeah, I think they can, and I think they would be willing to.
I think they would too. I know the Colfax Library would be willing.
Yep.
I
Yeah,
know
it's
when
like
I did a lot of stuff, I don't know, it's a few years ago now, when we were originally surveying throughout the county and having a bunch of community-wide meetings, the library would touch base with me to get more information about what happened at the meetings, to communicate back with residents who came in asking those questions of the reference librarians.
And I know at Colfax, they only have 3 public computers. So, I mean, it's limited as far as people coming to the library. And so I'm sure they would be willing to help people fill that out.
Yep. So, all right. I am not a graphic designer, but I have one on my staff. So, don't look at this for any of the pictures or color or anything like that.
Yeah, what is that big black bar at the top? Why is that there?
It's part of the template.
Okay.
So
I
I
guess.
changed the bottom one to it isn't even the Dunn County green, it's just green.
Mhm.
But yeah, so kindly mainly looking at questions that you would ask, and so I'll tell you that this text that I have highlighted right there is at a 10 font.
Oh, so it's fairly small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just as you look at, what questions do we ask in this simple area and still providing people, obviously, like I say, I know there's some formatting stuff, but I promise you that it will be formatted and pretty, in a way that it works.
Yeah.
So obviously much simpler questions.
Well, I think change that first question, keep it Dunn County Broadband Survey, because then you have the broadband up there, but then change it to, do you have access to high-speed internet at your home? Because then you've got both terms,
Excellent.
internet.
Yeah, then there's no confusion there. Well, what do they mean by broadband? Oh, high-speed internet.
Right.
Mhm. Then both of those words are in there. And it also fills in that line a little bit more, so it looks better.
Right. And so once again, this is where I did is your network connection fast enough to stream videos? Which
I think if you put CenturyLink behind Lumen, that would help too.
Yeah. Well, and bright speed, right?
Yeah, well, I'll guarantee you there's a
Yeah,
lot unhappy
for that.
CenturyLink.
Oh, nope, that took my other off. So, well, we may be able to make it work.
I would eliminate Lumen, but
I didn't even know it was called that.
That's what
well,
the
they were
bill
trying to
comes
do a
at,
strategic change.
right?
Oh.
And that's part of it. Like, so we use CenturyLink in the county, right? So we get a Lumen bill.
Mhm.
And I think that's what my thought is, when I go pay that, that's the name I see.
When I
Yeah.
see people complain about CenturyLink online, they don't say Lumen, they say CenturyLink. I hate you.
Exactly.
Yeah, Yep.
burn in hell is, I mean,
yeah.
and none of them say Lumen, even though burn in hell and Lumen kind of go together. So
Right. Well, and I think Spectrum and Charter kind of go
Yeah.
hand in hand like that as well. That,
you could do that same thing with Charter. And people in Downsville are gonna have West Wisconsin Telecom down there.
Yeah.
And some people call Mosaic still, they call it Shebardin. Wouldn't Telcom fit?
I think it'll give me a carriage return. Let's see. Oh, it does.
I think there's two ends. I think, maybe.
I think they went with three letters of each
For each
county.
one, yeah.
Bloomer Telco, and so what's not included in this one that I included in the other one, AT&T, and Netlink, I think it was. Netlink was one of the providers that got a PSC grant in the Boyceville area.
Mm.
And I don't know if the company's out of Glenwood City or maybe Clear Lake or something like that, but it's over in that kind of corner of the county. So I didn't put that there. The other part, as it relates to this survey, the mailers, we don't plan on sending a mailer to every resident in Dunn County. So as you look at that map that I shared before, I think we will look at some of the areas that we know are covered and exclude all of those and strategically send these to the areas that we know, or we we have questions, the most questions about.
If you,
That makes sense.
if you expand the margins on that box, you'll get more line space and it still will be fine for printing.
Yeah, and I don't know the specifics of what that was. This was a postcard template that that I found,
Yeah.
and yeah, so we may have a lot more flexibility when.
Mostly the issue with mailing postcards is on the address side and having the spot for the code for the post office to put their barcode stuff at the bottom.
So yeah, so we'll kind of be a little strategic about how that's sent out, and then I did put some up. Well, I put room for a phone number and an email address on the at the bottom. Now I have to figure out who's going to answer that phone and and respond to those emails.
You know,
So
actually, it would be a good idea to establish a broadband generic, like broadband at Dunn County, just to have it, and then that could be the catch-all that gets filtered off wherever it needs to go.
yeah, and I can with some of the tools we have, I can kind of have it be a monitored, an automated monitored email box.
Sure.
Yep. Phone numbers, yes, is a little bit more complex, and frankly, obviously, the audience that we're talking here is more likely to call.
Right.
So,
Yeah, is your network connection fast enough to stream videos? I'll bet you there's people out there that are gonna say, what's stream videos?
their answer is no.
Yeah,
So,
or I don't know what a stream video is.
I think you're still gonna have a greater chance of somebody understanding yes or no for that than you will if you put 100 megs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. And yeah, I say the hope here is that somebody just looks at that, grabs a pen, goes click, 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 throws it in the mailbox, and away they go, right?
Exactly.
Better chance of getting that response.
Well, and especially if they're unhappy with their current provider, they're gonna fill this out. They're probably gonna call you. They may go sit somewhere and file an email, because like I said, it's as a county supervisor, the two complaints I get from everybody in my district that I talk to, if they complain about anything, it's their access to broadband and County Road B. Those two things are number 1 and 2 all the time.
Yep.
And when if broadband is a big concern, we will have a 15-minute conversation at least about it. So if someone gets this and they have an issue, they are going to fill it out.
Yep.
They're gonna go through the effort. They'll go, why isn't there more space on it? But it's a postcard, so at least it gets them into the mix. And if they have some strong opinions, then they will call or they'll send an email.
Yeah, and Addison brought up, I don't know if it was in this meeting or a conversation I had with him, there is there's a broadband page on the Dunn County website, and I hesitate to say that because people might go to it. But that is something that we could bring up and have some of that info, and maybe even just put that URL in the bottom. So if somebody does have
Well, and why not
something, so
at some point go through and update it?
Yeah.
Archive the old part that's not up to date enough, but or share that this is from a survey from 4 years ago or that kind of thing. But yeah,
So-
that would be helpful.
So I will, actually, I'll probably take that as a takeaway, give myself some work for next week. And get that webpage up and going, maybe even and kind of have it related to this committee as well.
Sure.
And
Yeah,
where
that's a
we
good
are.
fit.
So,
Yeah. The county has a Facebook page, and so does the town of Colfax.
Yep.
Will that play anything into, rather than just repeating or
Yeah.
getting some of this posted?
No doubt, I think as these things come out and, Jim brings it up, if somebody sees this and they have a big have something to say about it, they should fill it out and they should go tell their neighbors too, right?
Yeah,
And I think as it relates to all of our social media and every opportunity we have, we will get the word. We're going to try and get the word out that
Okay.
these things are being sent out.
oh, we could easily, this would be one that I could see that we would use Doug Mel to create a press release and get some good press out of it too, so.
Yep, that we are asking this. I did email the Eau Claire County to find out if they were doing something similar, because it comes even more effective, I think, if all neighboring counties are kind of doing we don't have to do the same survey, but if we're doing it at the same time,
Yeah.
it helps. There is another survey tool out there that was made available to us through some economic development organization. And it allows you to do speed tests, and it essentially click your provider, click your speed test, click your location, and submits all of that data. And it's actually really nice, and we can get access to that data. But they had a presentation during our meeting last week, so I wasn't able to attend it, but I had our land information officer, who's the one who does all of the mapping and is familiar with mapping data and all of that, attend that. And she thought it was a good tool. There's a lot of good data, but I guess in my opinion, I bring this up because you guys get to have an opinion more than just my opinion, is it was only gave us that online tool, and it was asking a lot of questions, and it kind of brought up my concern about asking too many questions. And that's where I was like, I would love to have all of that information, but I'm really more interested in just a yes or no.
Yeah.
But that is something that is available. It's essentially the same one that was used for the FCC for that challenge, or it had come out before. It was a survey that had come out before. So if that is something that we can put up, and I can certainly put that up on the webpage if people want to fill it out, that's fine. But it's how do we get all of that data into one spot was kind of my concern as well. All right. It is 2:05. That is what I have from a survey standpoint, of kind of survey questions and formats. Is there any other formats that people are thinking we should do?
I don't know, that kind of covers it as far as like the people that don't have access, because the online one can be shared everywhere. It can be social media, it can be in emails, it can be a website, pretty much anywhere.
Yep.
And then at least the postcards getting to those people that don't do the online survey stuff.
Yep. All right. So next question is did timing and timeline. I'm starting to wonder why I did both of those words in the agenda, but so I think I had shared before our requirements for the BEAD planning grant are that we engage with the public. We've essentially kind of done most of that. So it's really just vision and goals that we need to have done by June 19th. My kind of goal was to try and have the plan done by June 19th. That might be asking a little bit too much, but but I would like to get the surveys out sooner than later, but, oh, I know where timing came from. Uh, what is a good time in like people's lives? That, is this a time that we would do this or, busy time? I think as it related to school as being in session was part of my thought. Do we want to get something like this out while schools are in session? Is that,
Yes,
is there something, Katie, that well, obviously there's more school districts in Dunn County, but I know my kids come home with more pieces of paper on a given day for of things that are going on. Like, is that a mechanism for us to kind of get that survey out that we want to take advantage of? So Terry's a yes there.
yes.
Yeah,
And that might have been the only thought I had around timing with school districts, but there may be other things that we take into account as far as trying to get that done.
So that means basically getting it out then.
Moving.
Yep,
So,
getting out this coming month.
yeah.
So
What kind of a deadline for people to respond?
I think that's more about that. I guess that's when we can get our work done. I was really looking at from a distribution standpoint that's a great way for us to distribute. But yes, a deadline. So there's your timeline. So when do we want to have all of those results back by? And I partially look over at the chair of CRNT that I said we would have all this done on June 19th for. So,
well, and do we put it on the postcard, please complete by?
Yeah.
Um,
and that
June
doesn't mean we
1st.
can't add to the data
Right.
later.
Yeah,
but-
we can always add to it, but at least then we could get a initial survey result, before that, even the June 19th. So.
Yeah.
Because I think that the nice thing again about having the postcard is that it doesn't require someone to get a stamp. They don't have to address an envelope or stick it into anything. They can open it up. They can complete it on the spot. They can even send it right there at the mailbox if they want to.
Mhm.
So.
Yep.
But asking people maybe to have it completed by June 1st. It depends. Depends on when we get it out.
Right. So we can back into that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Is
And
it too soon? Is it too soon to have it done by Memorial Day?
to get the survey out.
Yes. No, to get it back by. I don't know the logistics on your end, Dan.
I don't know the date for Memorial Day other than the specific day. It's May 29th?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think it's important for the school districts.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe Katie has a different idea, but
that tends to be graduation weekend, so you start missing senior parents if we
Okay.
start communicating things. I think as long as it's sent out prior to then, I don't know about, receiving back, but I would probably want it out before Memorial Day.
Yeah. Okay. So we're probably looking at trying to get it out mid-May.
that would work.
Pick the 15th, I believe it's a Monday. We have a county board meeting on the Wednesday of that week. So, yeah. So, yeah, I will. Like I say, I'll kind of take the back end of that, get a design and start figuring out how we're gonna get. Who's gonna print it, how fast we can get it printed, all of the logistics of that. If anybody has experience, I welcome it, but I think I mentioned before, our county manager is the one who kind of came up with this idea because it's been used.
Mhm.
So we do have some experience in the county in doing that, but I will kind of target getting that mailed out the week of the 15th of May. And we'll have to think about from a school district standpoint, Katie, is that something like we send a piece of paper, just an 8.5 by 11?
Our most common way of communicating, and I think this would be true of our other districts too, and our superintendent did say he would be willing to work with other Dunn County superintendents to communicate, but we have an email list. And that tends to be our best response. And then our administrator also has a Twitter account where he kind of reshares some of that information. But I would say it would most likely be an email, the way that we do our databases. And I would think probably for other districts as well.
So they would do the online or the web submission. We would focus the web survey to that.
Yep. Like I said, a lot of our families, even if they don't have a connection in their home, a lot of our parents do still use their phones to check grades, et cetera. You know, they have that connection. We have probably not many families that don't have one or the, you know, like a phone connection at the very least.
Okay. All right. So, yep, I will, I mean, if you can try to kind of think of timing, if you can have Dr. Zajdowski maybe contact some of them to say we're looking to get a survey. Is there, you know, what mechanism other districts might want that in? If they, I guess, if they want printed copies of stuff, we can print them. So, but if they want to use the online survey, that's obviously just a link. So
Sure.
So I'd leave that at you or Dr. Zajdowski to do that. To determine the best way. All right, so we'll look at trying to get that out mid-May and have yeah, I think
Yeah, this whole thing starts with the survey, right? You need that data to go forward.
yeah, you know, so we talked a little bit about you know, some of the attributes. I don't want to call them goals because I don't think they're goals. They're values as we talk about, you know, do we pay for that to the door between the curb, and you know, how are we paying for different things and things like that are kind of more in that values. But yeah, as you talk about goals, certainly for projects, you need to have this map.
Yeah.
But it's to identify the problem. I think anecdotally we know that broadband is bad, but and Jim knows a whole bunch of people that have
Yes.
had those problems, but you know, that's just in his area. So so yeah, I do think it's fundamental, Terry, to have that value, that data. And I guess to kind of bring a little bit of this all full circle, that online survey, we can overlay these survey responses right into that map that I shared before. So we'll be able to kind of get that the tools are related to each other. So the online survey tool and on that are both through the same software package. All right, so I think so timeline, we're going to try and get that out mid-May, and then deadline. I would say, yeah, if we can do that, we can probably do the June 1st deadline. Once again, it's not gonna stop anybody from submitting it after the fact. It just really means at that point, we're gonna start gathering the data and looking at it.
Can you share with me the paper, each of these tools? And I can help you like massage some of the questions and stuff and kind of put more of a marketing bent on it. Especially like even the envelope that we're gonna mail this out in needs to have something like even printed on the back of it saying, you know, broadband, high-speed internet survey enclosed, and something about encouraging them, open this envelope
Right.
if your internet sucks, without saying those words.
Right. On the envelope, but also once again, ahead of time,
Yes.
expect this envelope.
Yep,
So,
yes.
Yep.
It's
Um,
here, the broadband survey, open it.
Yes. So yeah, I will, I was gonna kind of grab Krista and say, hey, make something, but it would certainly get you engaged in that as we can. And once again, I gotta find a printer to to do it as well.
Well, and it might be that we use like something like L&M in Eau Claire, because they can do all that mail and fulfillment and printing it, because each of those postcards will either have to have like a the address on it or the barcode or something. So
Yep. Yeah, and Addison had, I think, mentioned that same company as
Yeah.
who they used for the surveys the last time. So yes, we will, I will be in touch with you about that. Our agenda called for the beginning of goal definition, so I think we'll table that for next time with hopefully to have Addison and Dan engaged next time. And because we only have 11 minutes left. So next meeting, we will do the same time next week. Sorry, pulling on my calendar. Same time next week, work for everybody. You should have a calendar a hold there. So if not, or with no objections, I'll schedule that for the same time next week. I will tell you, and the meeting can certainly be held without me, but I will be at a conference on May 18th. So I will not be able to be here.
you can Zoom.
I can Zoom, but it is in the middle of the conference. So I would like to, I guess I would kind of put that out there to say I'm not sure, but we'll see. I think as we get further down this, if there's something like we need to get that done, I will certainly Zoom in from the conference, but
Okay.
if not, or if there's something that the meeting can be held without me being there, we can do that as well. Or we can cancel. So I think every week is we're moving along, we're making progress, and that's
Your calendar. I wish everybody else on Zoom could see Dan's calendar, because it's crazy with all the colors and stuff, and I
right.
thought mine was busy.
Well, yeah. The evenings get even more complex. That's all my kids.
Yeah, your kids stuff, yep.
Activities, but some of that's rooms and bosses and stuff calendars.
Close.
So, yeah. So, I guess, is that said? Anybody have anything for the good of the group? If not, then we will adjourn. Thank you.
See everybody.